Okay, so this is gonna be a long video, like 18 minutes, so because after making my previous video, the animation that I made, it's a little bit weird, but I just recorded some clips while I was working, but I just missed some of them. But I was thought myself, hey, I just want to make a commentary video, so just like a podcast. And I just decided to explain one of the story of one of my original characters. So if you want, just grab your stuff, have a popcorn, and enjoy. Okay, we're gonna talk about my favorite of all, Kamala's Lawrence. I mean, I created way back since 2024. So this is gonna be a long story, but I just divided by some paragraphs. Comness is born and raised in Sherwood, Arkansas. So he's like the middle child of six siblings because his family, even though his family is probably having a half orc and a orc ancestry right now, but even though they're officially Baptist for no reason, but they just proclaim themselves as orcs. Yep. So just to start off, Cumnus decided to start off on a regular high school just to start off well, but until because it didn't matter well, but until his grades were they ended up pretty bad. When his father just read it out and he decides that for Comas he needs to change to another school because he needs to learn to be manly and brave and be kind to everyone, and especially to understand well. And on the first day they just went to the Warrior Academy, and for calmness he decides to stick around alone until he met for the first time his friends Luxo and Antonio. They were pretty faithful unto him, and they just shared around and they talked too much. They talked so many stuff, and he was pretty weird until one day at the War Academy they just planned out a dinner. Yeah. So one of the girls in Comus's group, which is Nanya, for people who don't know Nanya, and for people that already know, just don't worry about it. But for people who didn't know, she's a countryside girl that she moves from Mexico to Little Rock. Yep. And she when they ordered her to find some mushrooms and potatoes, but she doesn't want to go alone. So they choose Comnus to go with her. And when Nanya was picking up the mushrooms, and Comnus is starting to blush over her because of her beauty and an amazing mushroom collector that he thought about it. When Nanya saw his face and she said, "What's wrong with your face? What happened?" And Comnus just realized that he's in love with her, but in reality he says, nothing. Just just finish collecting the mushrooms. But we can talk about it." And when Nanya just realized that, when he found Comnus is pretty beautiful, and she just said, "Don't worry about it. I think you're pretty beautiful, but can we just talk about? We can talk a lot of things that we just matter about." And after that, Comnus and Nanya introduced themselves and they started talking when they returned back to the Warrior Academy to plan dinner. But and Nanya decides he wants to stay with Comnus because he thinks he's pretty. Because she thinks he's pretty alone, but in reality, Comnus is aside with his friends. But when Nanya is just sat around with Comnus, one of his friends, Luxo, just spotted and said to Comnus, "Hey, is that your new crush, your brother?" And everyone is starting laughing. And when Comnus is a little bit embarrassed, but Nanya didn't mind, but she still loves him for good. But after that, Nanya she feels pretty connected with Comnus. But even though they just started up a relationship, a normal relationship, And this is how Nanya and Komnas they just met up. Oh, including his friends. Yep. So this is how it started with them. Also, so another thing is that for Komnas, he had a hard time with his, with his mental breakdown or problems, if you want to say it. So one day, Luxo invited Komnas and Antonio to a party because even though it's like their celebration after their first year in Warrior Academy, it's like in June, like it's like an ending party. But even though they're gonna continue next year, so Komnas accepted the invitation. Even their parents let them just give them their permission, except his older brother, which is Kenneth. Yeah. So if you guys didn't know, Kenneth is Komnas' older brother. If you know that, like I said it a few times. Yeah. But not quite in this video. And for some reason, Kenneth is he's a little bit too pushy, and he forces Komnas to do whatever he wants, that Kenneth wants him to do. But in reality, Komnas didn't want it in reality. So one day, when Komnas Komnas asks Antonio about the bathroom, but Antonio didn't know over Luxos' house, but and Luxo, for some reason, even though he was paying attention over his girlfriend, and when Komnas decides to go pee outside, and he just almost slipped away after he done, and I just spotted out over his brother Kenneth, and and Kenneth told him, you're supposed to be at home. Why aren't you answering my calls? And Komnas, he tries to explain, but Kenneth didn't believe him for no reason. And then they started an argument in the street, and for some reason, they just Kenneth had a mental breakdown too, because he was very furious, wasted in tears, and gave Komnas a trinket box, which Kenneth didn't have time to give him Komnas' gift at his 14th birthday. But after that, Kenneth left pretty in anger and pretty tearful right now. He just went back to his car and went back home with his girlfriend. And when Komnas opened the trinket box, he just saw some more photos when Kenneth and Komnas were little kids, and some old collections that he used to collect. And I guess it's pretty weird and interesting over Kenneth and Komnas, even though they have a sibling rivalry, and I don't know why, but at least like in the end, after about 3 years later, after Komnas got graduated from the Warrior Academy of Arkansas, is that Kenneth instantly apologized to him, even though when Komnas went to his house to talk to him, but for some reason Kenneth I think he almost forgot, and he just said he thinks oh my gosh, I think I forgot about that, but at least we're together right now. And I guess it ended about Kenneth. Yeah. And after for a while right now is that one day is that when Komnas decided to go to another party, but this time it wasn't Luxo's party, but it was actually an orc event party, and that was hosted by his father. But even though that was actually he went out and met and invited Nanya, but even though she's not an orc, but one day he just spotted someone, and with two ear piercing, and his hands were purple, like a good old remembrance of his mother. And it was Jomar. Yeah, Jomar is a guy who practiced like good old witchcraft, but he had a hard time because way back he wasn't like in South America, because he just met a girl who encouraged him and had a good old friendship. But even though when he returned back, he felt more different, and this is how it went. So when he got closest to Comnes in the party, he drags him in his back and decides to chat with him. Yeah. And after that, when Jomar just pointed out with his red eyes in front of Comnes, he bit him in the arm, in the neck. Yep. And Comnes just scrammed over, he was trying to call the police, but it failed. And instead of that, he went back to his mom to buy some bandages, and for some reason it was cured. And when Nanya and when she realized that Comnes was screaming after Jomar just bit him, and she helped him with some medicines that she spotted. And that's why Jomar, he was instantly manipulating Comnes all the time after he bit Comnes. And yeah, so I know it's a little tricky, but even though Jomar is like the antagonist, it's pretty common that Comnes, even though he despises him for no reason, but yeah, he manipulates him, but not because of, probably it's because of his appearance and over his ears, but he also wants to reject Nanya. But that's why Nanya, but one day when they were on a mission on Crystal Lake in Montana, on a campground, I mean, Nanya just figured out that Jomar really wants to take Comnes with him, but Nanya, being so desperate for no reason, just and Comnes tries to talk to her, but she refused, and she started yelling at Comnes that were over Jomar had told her. And after that, they broke up during the mission for some reason, and that was pretty devastating over Comnes, because he thought Nanya is the only girl she exists, but no, he had another thoughts that Nanya, she's the only one that he knows. Yeah. For some reason, I didn't talk about the Crystal Lake mission that I just invented myself, but it's just that the Warrior Academy, the group of Comnes that he's been, they decided to move there for to start off the new year there, and it took 1 year, because every time the funniest thing is that his classmates wanted to stay in the cabin, but even though 2 people can stay, and one of the tutors, which is Anna, just told her students that only 2 people can stay, but we don't accept those kind of behaviors in this campground. So they just created a game that it only just pick a number, only 2 responsible people who can stay. And for accidentally, Comnus was picked first, and especially Narnia, even though she's in a different number. Yep. And even though they had to sleep separated, because especially when they broke up. Yep. And there's one last thing, is that in there's a final battle. There's a fight in during the last mission in Crystal Lake that every classmate has to join, because there are antagonists. There are some antagonists and titans that they want to take them down. Yep. And for some reason, Comnus just saw Jomar again. Yeah, again. So he attacked him, and for some reason he started screaming at him that all the things he had done to him, what did he said to Nanya, and that's why we broke up with him, and especially when Comnus said to him, you need a talent. And when Jomar just heard the word talent, he just kneed down and started crying. But for some reason, Jomar, he had a lot of feelings, because the word talent means to him creativity and hope, because the girl that he's been with, and she had already a talent, because she's a retired warrior. Yeah. And after that, one of his classmates just passed away, and the majority of them, they just got injured. But some of them, and the majority of them, they just survived. But even though 2 days of mourning, one of their classmates, Comnus went there to the lake, just standing there, just to meditate and pray. Yep. And until Nanya came there to mourn again, to mourn too, but she's still not sure if she wants to talk to Comnus. For then, when Nanya just sat aside with Comnus in the lake, Comnus just decided to apologize with her, and Nanya didn't say any words, but she decides to accept it, and they decided to reunite each other, and they're completely attached to each other once again. And for some reason, they decided to, even though they had to respect the rules, what their tutor says over those weird rules on the cabin, but they had to wait until the end of the year. And for some reason, and after 3 years of mourning, one of his classmates, Pia, was having mental problems too, but because she has her family from Chile, but she's not with her, because she's in the Warrior Academy alone, without her family, including her Misalots. And when Comnus went to her place and she explained over what she was feeling, he just gave a quick hug to cure her to cure her depression. And for second of all, I think this is pretty interesting how I just did it, but this time I'm gonna explain the weirdest thing that just happened. So Comnus and his tutor Brian, and especially Jomar, he apologized to him for all this. So they just went together to Colombia because one of Antonio's Misalots, which is Gilberto, is here to contract something and just to give him the Nobel Prize of the Warrior Academy. And even though Gilberto he knows anything, and he lives into a haunted castle that was built from a few years ago. Yeah. When Thomas entered there, he thought it was he thought the castle looks pretty elegant, but no, it's pretty spooky. So, and after returning back to America, he went back to Narnia, and after 3 years later, they got married, and they planned to have a child as usual. So, as expected, I think this is how Comus's lore is all about. Yep. Well, I guess that's the end of the story of Comus. Okay, so it took 21 minutes in this video or explaining this, even though I didn't have enough space, but I'm glad you guys understood that. But if you guys are still interested in more of my of one of my OC's lore, just subscribe. So God bless. Have a great day. Bye.